Good morning, good morning. Happy Sunday, Easter for most of you around the world. Well, not most of you. You're in the Southern Hemisphere. Let me know if you can't hear or see me properly. Things are looking good on my end. Let me just pop out the chat. And remember, if you would like to ask me something during the stream, if you're here live, put 3 yellow circles emojis before your question directed to me. And if it's a sensible question, if I can answer it, I'll do my best to. Alternatively, super chat during the stream, and I'll definitely see that, and I'll answer your question there. But yeah, as always, talking about recent videos. Let me just pop out the chat so I can see all your comments properly. Okay, hi to all the regulars. I see the regulars have turned up. Boffin Rocket, talked to you guys yesterday morning. We had a nice little chat with Spetsnaz and Karu, 5 of us, and I'm editing that video, and it should be up shortly within this week on my chat channel again. I want to try and make them as regular as I can, keep that routine going. It's really nice, not just to catch up with the guys, but also it inspires some interesting conversations, because you can just recycle the echo chamber of your own rhetoric, you know, like a writer. You've just got your head down and you write your own stories over and over again, and you sort of get very, very comfortable in thinking, speaking, and seeing things your own way. But it's really nice having interesting conversations with respectful and cool guys where it kind of stimulates different points of view, obviously, because people have had different experiences. They've been shaped differently. They've had different upbringings, parents, environments. So that conversation will come up. And I think that the topic was revolving around, or it was supposed to revolve around, what advice would you give the younger version of you? Or if you could go back in time, how would you do things differently with your experience? What did you worry too much about? And what now do you realize was just a waste of time and energy worrying about and things like that? So it was a really good conversation. So it'll be coming out soon. Hi, Vero, Rocket, Peg, Martial Arts, Oriental Medicine. So always interesting how because it seems like you're working a fair bit martial arts. It's always nice that you can drop in, even though you work a fair bit from what I see. Boffin, how are you? Dean, Blake. All right. Adam, Super AC, how are you? All right, all right, all right. Okay. Okay. The question or the comment I posed that, you know, I knew that it's natural that people take you the wrong way. And it's natural that people see what they want to see. Because again, like if you've got your principles right, say you've got sort of your internal rule book on given topics. Whenever you hear people debating whether something is good or bad, right? You probably sit on one side of the fence. Or heavily lean on one side. Like, should you get a dog? Should you get married? Should you have kids? And you'd hope that you have come across this conversation and you've chewed on it a fair bit and you've really come to like, no, this is yes for me or no for me or in context. So it's a definite no unless these things are in place. Then I may consider it, you know. That's the nuance. Like, they're the kind of conversations I want to have. And I think they're the kind of ways of talking to yourself with other people to form how you want to live, what your own internal rule book is, that should be constantly, not that it should be, but has the flexibility to be rewritten, adjusted, modified as you go forward, because it's naive and egotistical to think that as a 18-year-old or a 25-year-old, you're illuminated by the answers to life, and you're not going to be any wiser as a 25-year-old, say, regarding women, as you would be as a 50-year-old or a 70-year-old. For me, that's kind of frankly laughable and very myopic. And without trying to sort of put anyone down, it's like I witness a lot of guys having conversations and they haven't shifted. Oh, look, they don't have to, but they defensively and they want to shame you or someone else who's a bit more flexible in the conversation, or you've tried repeating the same conversation that they do about life, jobs, women, the government. They're constantly beating the same drum over and over again. They're very good at it, but they turn up to the conversation, drumming the same rhythm, and they're really fluent at it. And we've seen some of these content creators, they say the same lines, and they're really, really quick, but they're not thinking about the issue. They're certain about the issue, and they're just plucking out lines that are perfectly said. And my conversation with the guys yesterday was just another refreshing example of when you're able to have conversations with guys that, you believe what you believe, but everyone's friendly and not trying to debate and win and be right. But everyone's giving the other person room to kind of say, okay, this has been my experience. This is what I believe. I used to think this, but you know what? I've adjusted on that. Or I used to believe this, which is why I posed the question during the chat as a jumping off point. What would you do differently? And this is the thing. Let's have some humility and realize that we're always growing and hopefully improving, and that you didn't get all the answers at 25. Maybe when you were forced to kind of traumatically grow through an experience like your wife left you, took the kids, or someone in your life passed away, and it was a real pivotal moment where you had to really look at life in a different way and say, okay, now there's crossroads here. I'm not going to be the same person anymore because something in my life happened that I'm no longer going to repeat the past. And it's nothing as glib as I'm no longer going to repeat women. It's a solution. But when I talk to some of these guys, here's the thing. I realize that I can't have a relaxed conversation, a civil one, because I'm not trying to win a point of view. If I talk to a guy who's very religiously adamant about his view of men and women and won't budge, he won't listen to someone else's rational position of, well, I agree with what you're saying, but, or what about this? I'm not saying you need to adopt it, but don't you think it's also rational for a guy, say, who really wants children and that's nothing else in life matters, that you could listen to him, go about it, and you could have a conversation and maybe even help this guy if you know you can't change his mind. Maybe help him try and find his happiness with kids and a wife or whatever he wants in his life the safest, healthiest way possible, rather than shaming him, you're a fool, belittling him, telling him he's stupid. Because a lot of these people who think they're 100% certain about life, you talk to them and they're just pissed off. They got nothing to come back with but shame. Because for me, someone who's confident or is secure in what they believe doesn't react defensively and with shame like a little schoolgirl would. So these conversations, like the question I posed, I said, like, I'm tired of the clickbait, worst type of women's stories out there. These stories are simply entertainment and not illuminating lessons. They're not conversations. And we're being conditioned by, these 15-second reels. You don't have time for a conversation in 15 seconds. All you've got is time to fire up a rocket, to be provocative, to say something that will get people saying, OMG, what does he mean by that? Because you don't have time to explain it. There's no time for a long podcast in a 15-second reel. And it's almost like they're splitting people today. You're either a podcast person who can sit still and be patient to listen to points of view and a discussion, or you're a real TikTok person. Not real R-E-A-L, as I'm talking R-E-E-L. And yeah, I find these reactionary people that want to debate you in terms of right and wrong, they're leaning more in the TikTok direction. Provocative, black and white, and most of the world isn't comfortably black and white. It isn't. Your principles should heavily be black and white, and you should try to adhere to them because you've really chewed on them, discussed them for a while. Because without any guiding principles, life is fairly chaotic and you get taken advantage of by people and groups. So I asked that question. Basically, for me, it's kind of, are my conversations with people reflective and respectful? Or are they merely repeated? I hear guys just repeating memes, really clever. I would say, I'm not discounting, they're very clever, oftentimes wholly accurate. But within a conversation, a one-on-one, if I'm having a discussion with someone, they are not wholly and perfectly accurate. We need to discuss the gray area and the particular nuance of that person's, what happened to you? What did you learn? And that's what I'm more interested in. I notice it when I talk to people where they're just a parrot repeating really intelligent quotes from their group, from their bubble. Or are they a person that they can reflect and talk to me real time, plucking out those quotes, but then reflecting on them and talking about them? So I'm happy to talk about Briefold's Law. I'm happy to talk about hypergamy. I'm happy to talk about male mother need, why the juice is not worth a squeeze. Why isn't the juice worth a squeeze? What's the response to that? Have you ever listened to the lexicon of the person answering okay, why are women hypergamous? What has been your experience? How has it become evidently real in your world? Not just theoretically in the bubble of people that you talk to, but do you know what I mean? I just have much more enriching conversations like the one I did yesterday with the guys that we pluck from, science, nature, stats, the manosphere, filter it through our experience, and then you listen to an elder or someone mentoring to you. There's nothing like this way of reflecting real life, not just the rhetoric, but how your theories about women and the world and politics, how they played out in life and how they played out where you tried and learnt. And you can have a conversation about it as two human beings, not two robots that have designed a perfect world that only works online. And then you say, well, how many times has it happened to you out there? Oh, well, I'm too smart for that. I never even try it. Checkmate, mic drop. Maybe. But personalities of those people, I really don't know how to talk to because they don't know how to speak. I don't know. I do know. It's just frustrating. The more I have conversations with fair, reasonable people that have taken responsibility, that have formed their own moral philosophy, the more I'd rather have conversations with them and form my own ideas based on those, not just people who have repeated the same manosphere rhetoric for the last 15 to 20 years without actually, they look older, but I look at their videos now, I look at their conversations, I talk to them now, and then the same person. I have friends like this from high school. I can catch up for, a barbecue for an hour or so, but all they do is just talk about the good old days. They talk about when they felt alive when they were 25, and it feels like a lot of these guys who are talking about men and women or society and politics and stuff, they're talking about the moment where they were illuminated by what politics was and what they learnt, what freed them from being blind, and they're locked in there. They haven't taken that moves forward and become sort of wise and like with less fear, with more certainty, less stress. They're less reactive. They're not a calmer person. You look at them and you say, oh, well, this person's, really good tranquil place in life. They've got it together. This person's unshakable. This person's like a Yoda. They're not. These people are spurgs. Martial arts, oriental medicine. Let me pop up your chat. Thank you very much for the super chat, martial arts and oriental medicine. If anyone else wants to ask me a question during the stream and make sure I see it and read it live, feel free to super chat me. Otherwise, add 3 yellow emojis in front of your question to me, and I'll try and answer it if it's sensible. He says, I had a dream with you and your woman. She was wearing a turquoise dress, slim, pretty. We were in a bar to make plans as the world was in war. Many of us were there. I offered my expertise of survival weapons and medicine. Nice dream it was. Interesting. I like your imagination. Martial arts, oriental medicine. Thanks for the super chat donation. A creative person. And he's a doctor too. Really interesting. You got a good mix. It kind of doesn't surprise me that you've got a nice balance of the yin and yang that you've got in your avatar. Being able to see both sides. You know, here's a person you could have a conversation with. Scientist, creative, being able to see different points of view, which would probably make you a great doctor as well. You're not just, because I've met doctors that are really good medically, and probably you have as well, but they're horrible in their interpersonal skills. They don't relate to other people. They're very solipsistic. They're very academic. So it's the kind of I think the best doctors have a balance of the technical and the personable. So if you want, let me do an example here of, if you would like to ask me a question, how to go about doing it. Okay. So if you'd like to ask me a question during the stream, super chat it, or put 3 yellow circles before your comment or question to me, and then I can actually see it during the stream. David P, a longtime member of the channel, he said, he left a comment a little while ago about, I think I did a stream a couple of weeks ago about how to ruin a relationship, as in how we can often shoot ourselves in the foot. He says, the issues as human described is that all of the women I've met who are in my age bracket are bitter, mean-spirited, hateful towards men, and or just refuse to be self-reflective. Every problem in every relationship that they've had is because of men. The woman is blameless. My favorite was, well, I screwed up too, but not as badly as he did. Some have told me, well, you're just meeting the wrong women. Yeah, that is like that is so common and so dismissive. I mean, can you imagine saying that to a woman who's been mentally or physically abused as well? Oh, well, you know, you just need to meet the right person. Where are you picking these men? You just need to meet the right guy. Like, there's just such a lack of empathy to feel sorry for their circumstance, and then also to wonder why and ask why and listen to them. What happened? They don't care. It's just, that's your problem. Just make it romantic, why don't you? Why are your stories so unromantic? You just need to pick better women, then I can hear a better romantic story from you. I don't want to hear this. I want sunshine and rainbows. Anyway, he continues. You're just not meeting the right women. And he says, no shit, Sherlock. This is why I'm working on myself. I attracted the wrong women for many reasons. Yeah, and you said yes to the wrong women, and you accommodated them far too much. I've said this many times before, where a lot of guys treat women like their figurative 5-year-old daughter. They love their women like their daughter, and as such, they will excuse anything and still love her and still call it love. Like, your girlfriend's not your daughter. Maybe it was, in some ways I was lucky because I was never reproductively motivated to have relationships. I never wanted kids. And so whenever a girl acted really childish, I really didn't like it. It really stuck out. I didn't find it endearing. I really just couldn't make sense of it, and it really confused me, and it started to irritate me more and more. So maybe it's an advantage from really never wanting to have children, that it wasn't something that I liked, that it was endearing. It was the opposite for me. And I think maybe some of them were confused with me why I wasn't taking the little girl bait, why I didn't find it cute. I don't know. I used to shy away from women in therapy because of the. Oh, let me go back to this. David P says, I used to shy away from women in therapy because of the obvious stereotypes. After being in therapy myself for nearly 3 years, I'll give a woman in therapy a chance if she's actively working on her mental and emotional health. Most people will say to avoid women who go to therapy. Yes, if you're choosing between one that seems they both seem the same, healthy, well-adjusted, and you want to go on a second date. One goes to therapy, one doesn't, and you're finding it hard which one to choose. I would choose the non-therapy chick. But I agree, the person that is actually taking responsibility and realizes there's a problem, they're not bullshitting their way and saying, well, it's the world, it's men, it's not me. Why do I need to go to therapy? I'm perfect. It's men's fault. At least this person realizes there's a problem with them, or there's an issue they want to work out. Even if she doesn't believe it's her, why am I picking the wrong kind of guys? Why am I going out with guys? Why am I picking bad boys? At least it's a step in the right direction. So yeah, I think you're right in that sense. You give her a chance over the person who thinks they're narcissistically perfect. If she's simply phoning it in, I'm not interested. For me, it's not about reaching a level of development as a destination. It's about doing the work every day to be better than I was yesterday, last week, last month, last year. Yeah. Uh, I've never been outcome focused. I mean, I've got an eye to outcomes, sensible outcomes. Like, I'm not going to jump out of a plane without a parachute and expect to live, right? But I'm much more, I direct myself in the right direction. And I'm always focused on taking the right step now, having the right conversation now, and that bleeds into the future. The product of the future is what you do now. It's not what you hope to do. It's not your theories. It's not your rhetoric. It's the actions you take and where you lean from this position. Now, there was Ellie. Thank you for the super chat, Ellie. Their question or comment is where and how to meet women offline. Some virus changed the water holes. Look, online, I think it's very hard to meet women offline because everyone's so used to just living online socially, just through their social media. People really don't go out much anymore. They don't go clubbing. They don't kind of meet up and socialize that much. Even couples you see, if I go to a coffee shop, each couple sitting across from each other is doing this on their phones. So they're not even together. They're boyfriend and girlfriend virtually. Let me just turn my phone on silent. Let me be polite. Politeness, a topic that's sorely missing between guys' conversations. And yeah, the whole internet resembles a schoolyard of girls, whether it's guys or girls. I've often said I will have a decent conversation with anyone, a respectful one, but I won't have a debate where you think you're right and I have to defend what I believe is right, because I'm flexible in allowing reasonable truths to come in. Someone could have a conversation about me and my life and say, well, this could happen, human. It's like, okay, I'll give you that. That could happen. But let me tell you why I don't think it will, how I conduct myself, how I've given myself the best chance where this doesn't happen. No, it will. Our group, our religion, we believe in airtight 1 + 1 = 2. No, like the decisions you make as an individual. Otherwise, just either believe in arranged marriages if there's no choice, if there's nothing you can do, either it's guaranteed to work or it's guaranteed not to work. Religiously, let the church organize your marriage for you and tradition, and you have nothing to say for it. You don't care if you love her. It's about kids and the religion and the species, or don't do it at all. Fine. But why are you trying to debate me? Where I'm kind of I'm more philosophically inclined where I want to develop my own moral philosophy when it's got to do with me, how I go about things. Can you really say I'm 100% wrong given how I conduct myself, how I insist on speaking and telling you how I think and feel? Do you really think that this person on streams, a similar person didn't come out on dates in the past, especially as I got older? Do you really think on dates I was like many of the guys that are don't know what to say? They just believe in female nature. They're lobotomized by women's game playing and stuff. Do you really like? My personality just comes out 100%. If a small red flag pops up during a date in the past, I would voice it. I would be curious and say, "What do you mean by that?" I want to have conversations. A lot of guys just aren't interested in it, or they think there's no point. It's easier not to bother with the heavy lifting of conversations, but you heavy lift with this stuff because it's important. Because once you heavy lift with conversation and communication and honesty, like you're honest, because this is your life. That's why. It's not because of Pumpkin. I don't care about some female stranger on a date. I don't. I'm on the same page as you guys. Can we meet halfway there? But you're honest and you say what you want and you're fair about it because it's your life. If time with this person going into the future is going to be stable, is going to be fun, relationships are meant to be fun. If it's going to be fun, you can't censor and edit yourself for female nature because all women are the same. So I can't just be me. I have to be a cookie cutter guy because all women are cookie cutters. Well, then you get the result of a cookie cutter man and a cookie cutter woman. But if you date with intent, as Karu's coined the term, or as I remember him saying, there's a difference between someone who dates with intent, who obsessively and neurotically dates with intent, not neurotically, but you know what I mean, in that directing, who's very mentally present with what they say, what they hear, how they respond. They don't allow uncomfortable feelings just to be, oh no, I'll push them down because I don't want her to go away. I want a second date. So I won't ask her that question because that would be awkward. Who cares about awkward? If it's important enough, if it's a red flag, you talk about it. A person who gets you won't be phased. In fact, I found the dates I've had, and the girlfriends I've had, especially initially, everything I wanted to say, that I just said it anyway because it was important enough. They refreshingly liked it, not because I was different, because that allowed them to be themselves. It was no longer a cookie cutter conversation between two people that are trying to date the right way because of male and female nature, because men expect this or women expect this. I don't care what men and women expect. I care what I expect because this is me, and this is the only way someone who's compatible can fit into my life. You're looking for compatibility. You are not looking for a job because you're desperate. Ellie says, sorry, let me go back to your very generous question, Ellie. Where do you meet women offline? I don't have an accurate answer other than if you conduct yourself better according to your principles, whether you want to meet women online, which I understand is like your best chance of meeting different women, because I even noticed years ago, if you were just to talk to someone or flirt in real life, they'd look at you odd. People aren't used to interacting and chatting and flirting in real life. They want to be set up with a date so they know what to expect. Oh, okay, I know this is a date. I know this isn't just friendly chit chat. This is more than that. Or at least they go in expecting some of that. So I would say on your profile, if you have to go on profiles, don't do Tinder. If you want something meaningful, go on more, typical dating sites where, you both of you, or the sites for people who want a relationship, and then be completely honest in a relationship, while at the same time realizing that someone else is going to read it. Realize how people will maybe take you. Don't lie. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't keep the truth, in terms of, like, don't pretend to be open-minded to traveling or being outgoing if really you hate that, and that will pull you apart. You will be able to tolerate that for the first few dates, but later on you can't. Be completely honest in your profile, and who cares if you're not getting a lot of messages back, if you have to fake who you are just to get quantity of dates and force each other into relationships. You'd rather show up honestly. You go, well, I wrote my profile honestly. I'm showing honest profiles, photos. If you are dating online, offline, don't play the games. So don't play games online, offline. Be direct. Don't worry if you don't come off as romantic. If the person isn't like you out there, if they're not also looking for something genuine, if they're looking just for the surface, I would say don't worry about it. But it's easier said than done. So where do you meet women offline? I don't know, supermarket, go for walks. Some people said, join a group that has to do with a hobby you're interested in. So if you're interested in photography, video games, board games, comic book clubs, writing clubs, sports, whatever it might be, bikes. There might be bike clubs. You might just like riding your bike, walking. There's a lot of groups. I think Facebook has a lot of them as well, from memory, from what I hear of people. So I'd say wherever you do and however you conduct yourself online or offline, I think the important thing is from which perspective and how you conduct yourself. Don't just be the same way you were, like formalized, you're invisible, and you just kind of turn up walking and quacking like a very polite duck. Just turn up like the polite you, like you would with your friends. Just be completely you, enjoying the hobby, the group. Um, be you in your profile if you decide to date online. That's the best advice I can give. Um, remember, if you would like to ask me a question, put 3 circles in front of your comment or question to me, like martial arts did. Thank you, human. I intend the best to keep the warrior and the scholar as it brings harmony. Yeah. It's hard to kind of, sometimes it's hard to balance life, but you often do. I wish the human being could be binary, not in the political way that's people are talking about, but in terms of, like, why can't I just have complete tranquility all the time? Your body and your mind fights you. It likes uncertainty and certainty. Um, you go closer to your goal and your body resists you, and you go off track. But you have to set habits and things in place where it becomes comfortable for you to sort of balance that yin and yang. And conversationally, like I mentioned, can you be with people who think differently to you, but you can still, in a friendly chit chat kind of way, express your point of view without being defensive and debating them? Can you have a conversation, or can you just sit there quietly? What are your anxiety levels within yourself if you're not in your echo chamber? That's another example of being comfortable in that yin and yang. Um, Martial arts also says, do you not observe the world is changing, and all this chaos must happen in order to cleanse and come to full circle? Everything has two sides. If there is darkness, there is also light. Yes, true. It's also kind of, how do you compare, like if you do come across someone nice, how do you compare them? Like you've obviously had a negative experience. Some people are lucky enough to have their childhood sweetheart be perfect and they're in the right place and they've been together for life and they have no interest. You know, there is the lucky few, both in terms of who you come across and where you are in life. Because the majority of people, I would guess also, you'd come across really nice people when you were younger, but because you were in a different place, you never saw them. You couldn't relate to them. They were not in your, even in your plane of feeling attracted to, because of what you were focused on and what was exciting to you and what was inspiring to you. Later on, you notice these things that before weren't exciting or attractive. I noticed them with a lot of things, not just with the types of women I started to date that were different to the types of women I dated when I was younger. I remember books I read and the books I resisted when I was in my early 20s. Um, the potent one I remember was I was heavily into comic books up until my, you know, late 30s, I'd say. And I still have a really soft spot and I'll always love them. Or I always will really like them. Sorry, I'm being particular with my words. But I remember where, oh, what's the topic I'm talking? Um, I forgot the point I was going to make. What was I talking about? Someone remind me. Anyway, I was going to use comic books as an example about them changing or me changing. Anyway, who cares? Let's go. Let's go forward. Vero, they just wanted to put a couple of cookies. Toby is an interesting question. He says, how have you handled when you found yourself falling back into the one partner from your past? I think it's natural. You have rare moments, like mostly I just felt liberated and I feel better to be out of a bad life with somebody else. There are moments when you're kind of lonely, those days where you think and your mind likes to go to ease the loneliness. The first thing it goes back to your last partner and it gives you a snapshot of a moment that will make you feel good. That's natural, right? But if you're being reasonable about it, it's like, yeah, okay, why didn't my mind go back to the last 3 months? Why didn't it go back to the reason why, if that, let's not fool ourselves, that little snapshot, that moment, that day, that hour that I'm freezing in my mind to make me to put a band-aid over feeling lonely because I'm single and no one's in my life. Why am I just focusing on that? Why am I intentionally refusing to see the last 3 to 6 months of pain and misery that caused us to break up? Because if my relationship was just those great moments over and over and over again, then you would be confused to know, why did we even break up? I think a lot of people even fool themselves and go, you know, when they catch up with their ex and they go, why did we even break up? Yeah, I don't know. As though they refuse to look at the reasons why they broke up, as though it was a mystery, as though they both woke up and said, you know what, I don't want to be with you anymore. Yeah, me too. I don't know why. There's obviously reasons that it got worse and worse, or some person changed and went in a different directions. There was a betrayal. There was something. Anyway, for the nerds interested, I'm using my microphone today is the Neat Worker Bee. It's a condenser microphone. Really good value for money. This microphone punches above its weight. Looks pretty cool too. Anyway, so how do you handle when you found yourself falling back into the one partner? Whether it's thinking of things I'd rather not think about or I don't like, why am I thinking about this? It's the same as dreams. It's the same as being in a funk. Say you wake up and you wanted to spend the day being productive, working on a book, doing a video, whatever your creative thing is. You wake up and you're lazy. You don't do anything and you kick yourself. If you're in a funk, if you're thinking about something you don't want to think about, my favorite thing is just to change my state. Do whatever I need to do and just make the decision and do it. Like, you know, you're on the couch and you really should be doing the dishes, or you really should go for a walk and you're procrastinating. Don't Don't give your mind to negotiate. Don't have a conversation with your head. If you're aware of the elephant in the room that you're avoiding, and your mind's having a conversation saying, yeah, but rationally speaking, you don't need to, and it's giving you all these excuses to stay lazy, don't give your mind time enough to wake up to have a conversation with you. As soon as you notice, like, oh, I'm being lazy, I really should, then just do it. Just change your state. Do anything to get out of the funk you're in. So say you want to, even if say you know you need to write or you need to go for a run, say. If I know I need to go for a run, but I'm sitting around procrastinating, I will not stay there just thinking in my head. I will just say, yeah, I have to go for a run, but like, let me just do the dishes. I change my state. I divert my attention away from just having a conversation and a relationship with my mind. So I'll do the dishes on my way to putting my runners on and just going for a walk. So I will negate the conversation. I'll make a decision not to think with my brain, because I know it's just keeping me there, and I'm going to be lazy. At the end of the day, I'm going to feel bad about it, and my brain all of a sudden won't be there. My friend that held me back won't be there. So the best advice I can give, that I give myself and I try to do, is whatever negative feeling I don't like at the moment, if I can't rationalize my way through it, I kind of just flick a light switch and make the choice to change my state. So do something else, even if it isn't towards the thing you have to do. Sometimes you can. You just put on the runners and you go for a run if that's the thing you're procrastinating. But sometimes just get out of where you are, mentally or physically. Go to the supermarket. If you know you have to go for a run, let me just go get the shopping for half an hour, and then when I come back, I will have shaken myself out of that lazy state. So change your state. Make the decision, flick the light switch, and just move. Mentally move. Get out of that state. And don't wait for your mind to go, yeah, but, even if it is rational. Because you know, like you, especially me, I know I can come up with very, very clever, rational decisions to not do everything that I know I just should do. I'm very clever that way. I know I am. And so how do I combat that? Just flick the light switch and just don't give it time. Given enough the time, your mind can keep you anchored to a bad place. So make the choice, change your state, and don't let your mind intrude. Don't give your mind enough time to intrude. Just change your state. Remember, guys, you want to ask a question? Yeah, Daniel says, romantic and girly movies always portray the encounter with the one as a bump in the street kind of encounter. The accent is always put on randomness rather than intentionality. Yeah, and it's not a nice story. Women compete with each other. So women resist practically dating in a really practical way because it's boring. It makes a boring story. So later on, say you, like if you go about trying to give yourself the best chances to meet your compatible one, right? If you go about it rationally, it's a very boring story. And later when your girlfriends ask you, saying like, well, you know, I just put on directly on my dating profile what I wanted, and I messaged them, and I was on the date, and I was honest, and he was honest, and then we made a commitment and this, and we've always been consistent, and we talk and we communicate. It's like, it's boring. It's not an exciting story. Everyone wants to have an exciting story. It's a product of social media. You want to have a clickable channel, a clickable video. You want to have likes. Have you seen that? Oh my God, yeah, did you hear how Nancy met Tom? Like if you just got together in a very boring way, a very prescribed, boring way, it's like it's not a story anyone's going to repeat. You've got to decide that no matter how boring it is, you are going to conduct yourself that way. You don't care. Why would you take advantage? Why would you take advice from the loud bimbos out there? They're obviously just recycling roller coasters and messes. I know it's not sexy, but communication works. Dating intentionally and like your parents or someone who's responsible and older and pragmatic, that works. Do you want something that works, or do you want an exciting story that you're one of the special lucky few where against all odds it just worked out? You know, do you want the romantic story like Daniel said that all women's romance movies are based on? That despite all odds, I was the craziest bitch out there, but he forgave me. And no matter what I did, he still loved me, you know, like The Notebook, like Dear John, like all these stories, like Pretty Woman. Now, even though I was a hooker, this rich billionaire wanted me, no one else. I was different. Why? Why were you different? I don't know. It was just magic, but just he saw me. What about you? You know, I don't know. Just me, you know, you don't get it. No, I don't. You know, you have to be able to, it's not sexy, but you have to be able to know why you love someone, why they love you. You can describe why you went about going. It feels secure knowing why your relationships are working because you can point to how you went about them. But if you just, your rule book is luck. How did it happen? I don't know. I bumped into him. Luck. How is it sustaining? Why is it continuing? I don't know. Luck. We just love each other. Why do you love them? I don't know. Luck. Universe. I hope it continues. I would never feel secure. Imagine the eggshells those kind of couples walk on. I think that's why they love going out so much. Keep the treadmill going of distractions, holidays, presents, romances, new house, new car, exciting this roller coaster, breakup, makeup, like anything other than communicating in the boring stability of the glue that keeps people together, the glue that kind of kept your grandparents together. Not exciting. You can't make a channel. No one's going to watch that video, but it works. But your the blueprint of relationships today, I think they try and make them resemble videos that are viral videos. So I don't, it's insane that you think the formula for a viral video will sustain a stable relationship. I'm reminded of that quote. You know that cringy cliche of finding yourself? I remember a quote that said, the way to find yourself is get bored with yourself. That's how you'll find yourself. It's not literally get bored, but you know what I mean? Sit still, get off social media, stop being entertained, like sit still and really reflect and get comfortable with boring, the mundane, the everyday. Yeah, just as sensible as this. Melee says, I broke up because she annoyed the crap out of me. I know why. Yeah, know why you broke up. Know why you love them. Know why things are good. Yeah, this. You want to feel secure? Know why. In your single life, for instance, isn't it better knowing how you've curated your life? You know why you're at your job. You chose the job. You chose where you want to live. You bought the car you want. You furnish your house the way you want. You've got your friends. You know why you can rely on Frank. You know why you trust them. Why do you love your girlfriend? Why do you trust your wife? I don't know. Because so far it hasn't fallen apart. Yeah, okay. Good luck with that. I think there's a lot of pushback or misunderstanding of my videos because I really think the answers, at least for me, have been asking yourself the questions and how you conduct yourself and how you give yourself permission to talk about them and ask those questions without any fear. Like I have the permission to um to talk about these things like anyone else. Women give themselves permission to talk about anything, often without any tact. A lot of them are very rude and entitled. Yet a man doesn't give himself permission to talk respectfully and give his own opinion. So the how and the why is very important, I think. But if you don't think it's important, there's nothing I can do about that. Um, Toby says, what if I've surpassed the lazy state, but I cannot get her out of my mind? I don't think the lazy state has anything to do with it. I think you're just kind of stuck on them. And you're comfortable. You found the space after the relationship, but you didn't move anywhere. You've kind of stayed there. I think our minds force us to go forward with any means possible, and the fact that you can't get her out of your mind might relate slightly to what I was talking about before about changing your state. If you can't get something out of your mind, or if you're thinking and you're stuck in a funk that you'd rather not be in, and there's nothing you can do or think that will get you out of it, change your state to get her out of your mind. Go out with friends, talk with someone, go for a walk, listen to music, do anything and everything to stop hugging. Like, if all you're doing is thinking about them, they're consuming your mind, the only thing to do is get out of your mind. And often it takes like moving physically somewhere else and doing something else. Put the music on loud, go for a walk, talk to someone else where you're forced to stop thinking about them. You have to think about the person in front of you talking to you. So the fact that you can't get her out of your head should tell you that what's the right thing to do. You need to get her out of your head. Why? How? How do you go about that? Start looking at how. Talk about how, watch videos about how, um, in your personal life, talk to people about the how, anything to distract yourself from her, because you need to get her out of your mind. You already said it. Some of these questions, guys, if they're more about like, if you would like me to actually make a video about a topic that you're like, for instance, this Daniel wants to donate based on a video he wants me to make. Email me, and I'll see if it's something I do have. I'm not just going to take money and make a video and phone it in. I want to make sure it's something I would find interesting or have experience in. I've talked about, so I can actually offer something to you for your money. But if I'm going to go through all the effort of making a video based on something you want to hear, just message me first, email me, and we'll see if I can and can't, and how we can or cannot maybe go about doing it. But message me anyway. But if you've got a simple question, super chat me here, and I can do my best to. I will answer your question. But I suppose it's depending on the topic. But I will definitely give you my opinion. But if you want a whole video made, that takes a lot of effort. And I don't really think I've taken requests. I've had people email me wanting to talk about it, or wanting, but then sometimes based on the question or the video they want me to make, I do go, this is actually something that's right up my alley, and that's a really good question, or that's a really good topic, and I do have a lot to say about it. So I won't just say yes before I know what it is. Daniel, thank you for joining the channel. Martial Arts says, and thank you for the super chat, by the way. He says, "Human, the vast psychosis and other mind illnesses in female is true. I see it most with female patients, mainly young ones. Lots of emo, sickness, diagnosis, monophobia. Most want men or be out all the time, fear of being alone." Yeah, there's a lot of extremes. There's none of this in the middle anymore. Most of us kind of used to occupy the middle, as far as I could see in society. But then you had the extremes, the edges of society, either hyper social and manic, or kind of shut-ins and closed, and like. But now it's kind of like, just like there's the middle class is disappearing. I think the middle class, the gray area, the average, the person is disappearing as well. The person who can have a conversation and be normal. Normal is disappearing. Any other questions, guys? See. How long have we been streaming for? Nearly an hour. Nice. Okay, any last questions? Let's see if I can do an hour stream. That'll be interesting. I like doing hour streams. It's a really nice number. A comfortable amount of time to listen to. I'd rather do regular hourly streams rather than exhaustive multi-hour streams. So any last questions, guys? Super chat me or put 3 brightly colored emojis in front of your comment or question to me. Just like, let's see, I'll give you an example. Like for instance, yeah, martial arts, how we put 3 red circles, 3 yellow or red circles, put them in front of your comment or question, whether you super chat me or not. And here I put some related videos you might want to watch that I've done and streams, recent ones. You don't have to say yes to her. My recent one about my experiences of dating in the last 30 years and what I've learned. And the futility of keeping your mouth shut and hoping for the best in relationships. And why I posed this question or comment is like, I'm tired of the clickbait worst types of women out there. You're not actually learning anything. You're being entertained by train wrecks. You're being a passive observer of kinds of women and stories that obviously no one would pick these kind of worse women, or you would do your best to pay attention to those worst type of women. But I definitely know that the vast majority of guys have problems with the everyday stuff with women. The entitlement, the who pays for the bill, what she expects from you, how little she expects to give compared to how much just the everyday stuff. The extreme stories of the entitled princess, sociopath, single mum, stripper, whatever, like, yeah, great. Like I see videos of that get the most views where it's titled something like, this 40-year-old single mum gold digger has ruined the life of another millionaire and she still thinks men are blah, blah, blah. It's like, yeah, let's hear what this psycho thinks. That's a movie. That's an extreme. That's something that would make a good story. But that's not people don't have the problems people are having are in the mundane, pedestrian, everyday life. And it doesn't make great videos, but the way we can talk about them can. I mean, I try to make my videos about the mundane, everyday things I think are interesting and important and sometimes essential that aren't often sexy, but just important to talk and think about. Why is my nose itchy? People just think this story has to be exciting, but the way we discuss things doesn't have to be interesting. You know, there's a difference. It's kind of low-hanging fruit compared to meaning. You know, are you after something meaningful, or does it need to be wrapped up in a roller coaster? Well, good luck then. You're always going to go for the roller coaster. Don't complain about motion sickness and all the fear and anxiety you have on the roller coaster you insist on going on. I'm talking about, why do you need to go on the roller coaster? You keep throwing up after every ride. Like, maybe you don't want to go on the roller coaster. Yeah, but I like what I like. Well, then you'll get the results of liking what you like. But I want it. Well, how about you don't want it? Or try not to want it. But I can't help it. Well, if you're going to keep pushing back on everything, maybe there's a little conversation we can have. Maybe you have to keep watching, you know, clickbait, argumentative videos like Fresh and Fit or something, which are very entertaining. Maybe you have to have enough of that and enough of the train wrecks that result from being exposed to that and being conditioned by all of that, where you go like, I'm numb. Can something else make me feel alive? Maybe then conversations, practical conversations about just dating, insisting on dating more, less psychotic women, less extreme, Fresh and Fit type of women are more appealing to you now. Maybe then I'll be able to have a conversation with you. I don't know. Martial Arts Oriental Medicine says, human, do you not observe the world is changing and all these chaos? Oh, no, that was a different comment. This was a newer comment. He says, human, you and Joker, Better Bachelor, are my best sources of observation to help me in my medicine. I like to super chat and help you. You do a lot, my friend. Thank you. Thanks for the donations and the support, martial arts. I really appreciate it. The kind of people, not just that donate and support, but really leave mature comments, everyday life comments. Like martial arts here is a doctor. He's trying to balance, his human side with his analytical side. He's trying to filter the science with the observable reality, with empirical evidence, filtering it through, maybe the women he's come across. He mentioned the female doctors or patients he comes across. There are patterns, and you become your own scientist. You become, the barometer through which everything's filtered through. You don't just kind of go to the church of um, the manosphere, or the church of science, or the church of biology, or the church of religion, or the church of. I think if you're going to be a reasonable human being, you cherry pick and you have a reasonable, mature conversation with each thing. And if you can, you process it and you think you are the final judge on all of that. What do you think? Where do these things hold water? Does, in this particular topic relating to men and women and choices and consequences, does the divorce rate really hold a lot of sway here in me knowing where I stand and whether I'm going to date next or not, or how much, or where my boundaries lie? Is it heavily influenced by the stats? Or is it kind of rationally influenced? If I conduct myself with these boundaries, it's rationally there, right? I'm well aware of it. But it's not really going to touch me if my personal boundaries, how I relate to someone, how I talk, where I say yes and no, where they can kind of lead me around. If I'm really good at conducting myself verbally, philosophically, and I'm really kind of present there on the date, I'm not just an empty intellectual thing on a date that talks like a really smart robotic Andrew Tate that can demolish any conversation. But am I actually there in a very present, creative way, listening and talking in real time? Can I do that? How much then does science and math and female nature come into it? Or am I always aware of it if she pushes those boundaries? Then I can kind of go, yeah, that's where that's important. I can't talk to her rationally like a human being. She's a narcissist. She's not even here. So then I can not be here as well because she's not. Then I can adhere to the stats, and she's just one of those. She's a borderline. She's a chick that can divorce me or get rid of me or destroy me. So your ability to see the person there and relate as a person comes into it. So, like, how good are you in balancing all those things? You know me. You ask me one question and I'll talk around it more than you probably wanted. Any final questions, guys? And we'll wrap it up in about an hour. It's been almost an hour. I've been talking at you, but hopefully with you as well. If you would like to ask me a question, super chat or add 3 emojis. Yep. Like, comment, subscribe. Support the channel just by interacting with it, guys. It helps me out a lot. Let's see. Any final questions? What do you think of the sound of this microphone compared to my usual one, which is this one here? It's the one I usually use. This one's much more sensitive. I have to really tone it down. It's a better microphone in some ways, but I actually prefer that one. It's still high quality. So let me know which one you prefer. This one or the usual one I've been using for the last few months. Brad says, you want a chick to get out of your mind? Why not pretend she hates you, which she probably does anyway. Well, look, with evidence, if someone's treating you a certain way, well, I don't think it's unreasonable to suggest that, well, she doesn't actually love me. That's actually a clarifying reality. like, oh, but I love her and stuff. And then when you ask the guy questions like, well, she acts this way, she doesn't want to talk to you, she's dating someone else, she moved on right away, she ghosted you, she doesn't respect you, she treated you like crap. And then all you can do is pluck out little moments when the relationship was good. The reality is she doesn't love you, she doesn't care about you. It's a one-sided, like you're having a relationship with memories of the past. So it's true, she doesn't like you, she hates you. Because someone who at least was kind of fair and neutral would at least talk to you or be reasonable. If she's going out of her way to hurt you or make you feel miserable, like some of these things aren't just mind hacks to make you get over someone. Some of them are actually rational as well. You know, she doesn't love you. If someone at least cared for you or was fair, they wouldn't act a certain way. So, but I agree. Sometimes a mind hack is the best way to go if it's going to get you out of that kind of funk. Hairway to Stephen. That's a good avatar name. He says, "Why is it so difficult to find a woman who doesn't insist that I pay for her?" Women are funny. They won't insist because that makes them look. It's kind of makes them obviously entitled. But for the ones that do, that's really arrogant. I think that's an easy one to kind of say, "Yep, no." You're an entitled, typical bimbo narcissist. I could see you from an airplane. If I go out of you, it's completely all my fault. But I think this is the thing. If you know how to have a discussion with a woman to expose her hypocrisy, where she goes, I believe I'm an old fashioned girl. A guy should pay for me, blah blah blah. But then the moment you ask her, like, well, have you slept around? Do you go out a lot? Are you going to have a career? Do you want to make the decisions? Do you let a man lead? No, of course not. Oh, so you want your cake and eat it too. Or you want to eat your cake and have it too. So you want to have all the benefits of being a modern woman. You want to have all the benefits of a man being an old fashioned guy, but you don't want to give anything as a woman. So basically, you don't want to contribute anything to me being. If you want me to be old fashioned, you have to at least meet me halfway, or you have to be as old fashioned as me in certain ways. But you can't expect me to be all old fashioned while you live in a modern world of a woman that doesn't do anything. I don't know why. I think it's difficult because men don't speak up and articulate and expose women and call them out. So men really need to call them out, but men really need to know how to articulate this stuff. These topics come up time and time again, the same questions. Why do women do this? Why do women do that? My ex did this. And everyone's got similar experiences. But how often do we talk enough about them to understand them and know how to respond? And then on a date, have the courage to say those things and articulate them where you embarrass the person. You're not being rude. You're intelligently articulating how hypocritical they're being. Did you see what I just did with my sentence structure? How many guys have the ability to find it interesting enough? If you want to get back at your ex philosophically, I'm not suggesting you do, but not so much get back at them, call women out and put entitled women in their place and, redo how your ex mind effed you. So on the next date, if she acts like your ex, be interested enough in responding and having that comeback and articulating that so she's embarrassed and rethinks how she's acting and how entitled she is. Let her know why she's being a wretch and why she's being unfair. Let her know why this date won't have a second because you are entitled. You're rude. You don't have any tact. You expect me to do this, but if I ask for this, you won't. This is why I won't go out with a woman like you. Until men call women out, this won't change. We'll have similar stories where we stay quiet and women don't, and we just keep going around. At what point do you change how you talk and act, and at what point do you change your story? At what point do you stop believing that relating to people is luck? At what point do you start insisting that it becomes a skill, that you need to develop in the way you speak, act, think, and the people you choose or don't choose? Thank you, martial arts. You're welcome. I'm just glad to have great conversations with level-headed people like yourself and others. Crummy VCR. The manosphere is just McDonald's. Tasty, but worthless. I'm glad I'm over the information in infotainment rubbish. That's a good term, infotainment. That's what most of it's become now. Real conversation equals real results usually. Yes. As I said, I know very quickly when I'm talking to someone how they speak, how they respond, whether it's in memes, whether they're trying to shame me, or whether they're being fair and reasonable given what I'm trying to describe. So yeah, I'm tired of all that infotainment rubbish anyway. When you realize some of that stuff is entertaining, fine. I can watch certain channels and get a laugh. And me and my missus, when she shows me a channel and she goes, "Oh, look at this," we can laugh, but then it quickly turns into a comment about what's important about this, why it's laughable. You look at comedy, when they tell you a truth that makes you laugh, it's so ridiculous. We laugh because of what's true. But I think that people are consuming these 15-second clickbait infotainment sort of things and not reflecting on anything at all. They're effectively laughing at jokes and they're not having discussions about why. I mean, when you watch someone like Bill Burr, it's funny and you have discussions with people about his jokes between men and women, and you have these interesting, funny, lighthearted discussions about why it's funny. Yeah, women do this and God, this isn't unfair. They're the illuminating discussions you can have about why something makes you react, why this is stupid. But if you just keep watching stupid without reflecting on it, without knowing why it's really important, yeah, I'm tired of the infotainment as well. And it's kind of stupid that how many times can you laugh at the same joke? That's what this clickbait feels like to me. Like I'm watching 15-second clips of laughing at the same joke, and then after 5 years, 10 years, pretending to go, ha ha, oh my God. It's like, really? I've heard you laugh like you're putting it on. You know when you watch YouTubers and they obviously set up shots, they've got cameras and they'll react to a video and they'll be like, oh my God, LOL, OMG, and they overdo it and you know they're acting. I feel like at what point do you watch the same infotainment clips, the same clickbait of what the worst kind of women do and what we've heard over and over again? At what point do you hear yourself going, oh my God, and go, really? Is it that shocking? Haven't I heard this 1,000 times before? Isn't this just comfort food? Isn't this just drive-through McDonald's at this point? Without any conversation after the oh my God, isn't this me just going through McDonald's drive-through? Again, it's up to the point where a person makes the choice of going, enough of this. I'm tired of recycling the same teenage me. I'm tired of recycling the same 20-something-year-old me. I'm tired of being frozen at that pain point of when Chicky Poo left me, and rightfully she was in the wrong, and it shouldn't have happened to me. I'm tired of recycling a narrative where it's not my fault, where it was unfair. I'm tired of recycling the victim narrative. I might have been hard done. She might have been in the wrong, but can I stop living in the victim? Like, my life is better, or I hope it will be, as you go on. But yeah, I don't want to have the same postcard conversations of the past. Without reflection, all it is catching up with old high school friends and talking about the good old days. These horror stories. That's all they seem to be, without any kind of self-reflection. And you'll notice it when I put up the chat that I had yesterday with the guys. We touch on many of the stuff you guys will nod your head on and agree about women and relationships, but immediately it's like 1 to 2% entry point with these stories that we all know that are unfair, and 99% will be about reflecting on it and what we think our experiences, the nuance, how you turn the dials, how you can make better decisions, what you've learned, where your life isn't just a repetition, a groundhog day of the same experience resulting in the same way. There's like an adjustment in the conversation based off the same initial talking points. That's the difference. So, I can't pretend to find the same jokes interesting over and over again. I can't. Uh, a lot of guys can seem to do that, but I can't. Maybe it's respect. I'll laugh at it. Same way like you continue to believe in religion because your parents did and you love your parents and you get to a 30 or 40-year-old man and you find it evaporating and you're trying your best to hold on to it, but you actually feel like you're moving away. I don't know. Maybe it's that. I'm just trying to analogize. Gangster Elegant says, how futile is dealing with a woman with a terrible relationship with her father, either due to abuse or otherwise? Yeah. My ex had a less than perfect relationship with her father, and I never understood why. And I asked her, and she couldn't come up with the answer other than he just annoys me. So, yeah, look, those things, their relationship with their mother, how they respect their family. If you get with someone who doesn't talk to their brother, their sister, their family, they've basically got no friends. They're really estranged to people. If you don't pay attention to that, then there's got to be a reason. There might be a good reason. It may not be her fault. Maybe her whole family are nuts. And if you see it, you go, yeah, I understand exactly why you're estranged from everyone. But if they can't hold friendships, they can't hold jobs, like, how fair are they? How reasonable are they? So again, comes down to you, how you make judgments, what is good and bad for you, at what range. There are certain deal breakers for guys. Like for me, it takes this much for it to be intolerable. Whereas for this, some guys, it's like, nah, as soon as it pops up, I'm not even asking the question, out. I dump her. And again, for me, sometimes that's an example of clickbait. When you hear a guy says, if a woman does X, I dump her. If she doesn't do this, I dump her. It's like all these hard and fast rules. And it makes interesting content because you think, this is weird. I've got to click on this. I'm curious. Whereas if someone says, oh, well, let's have a discussion about this. Yeah, I don't like this, and I would definitely leave this woman if she crossed the line to this. That's a boring conversation because there's realistic nuance, there's level-headedness. But when you hear a story of a guy saying, if a woman does this, I always leave her no matter what. You're thinking, this is very odd. This is peculiar. This is extreme. This is extreme discipline. Let me hear what this is. Unfortunately, most of us aren't that kind of person. That kind of thinking is very um, unnatural, I'd say. I'm not saying it's wrong. There are certain things that should be deal breakers and boundaries, but I think most of them are ranges that any reasonable person would find concern and then finally break up with someone. But then your own limit to these, like for instance, some people can't handle a certain degree of romance in a relationship, even like just even giving the person flowers or kiss on the cheek. They don't like holding their partner's hand. Valentine's Day, like there's just no romance at all. The female emotional need for that kind of thing is zero. Some guys like me, it's like I'll reasonably do it where it makes them feel good, but I'm not going to make the world romantic. I'm adhered to the practical realities of a relationship, what make it work. But I've I've got a range of giving romance to a woman, whereas other guys don't. So rather than being a hard and fast rules that a lot of guys take it as, I think you really need, that's why I say, look at what you want, who you are, what you can live with, and then you form your range. There might be deal breakers, but at what point does it become a deal breaker? Is it at zero, or do you give them a chance? Or do you need to talk to them to clarify where they sit with the perceived deal breaker? Do you make up the deal breaker in your head, or do you clarify it with conversation? This is the stuff I find interesting. And this is the stuff that makes me secure in whether I stay. This is the stuff that makes me secure in, like, yeah, I'm not going back to her because I did all this. I talked about this. I dug right down to the bone to find out exactly what it was and how I felt about it and whether I could live with it. But people want cookie cutter answers because they're either not interested, they're mentally lazy, or they just believe in science to the degree that science can solve their very personal, subjective, emotional relationship problems. And I think that relationships and the ontological, scientific 1+1=2 world, they don't relate. They can kind of help each other out, but relationships are very subjective, and they're stochastic. And for those of you who don't know what the word stochastic means, it means something that's very measurable, but highly unpredictable. You can't predict it. So you can measure it as much as you want. You can learn a lot about it, but it's almost impossible to predict. The only way to predict relationships more accurately is to be more personally involved in terms of who you are, what you want, and then express that through the conversation and how you relate to the person. But making it very cold and scientific, that tool does not solve the relationship problem. The only solution the cold clinical tool can do is either you have a blind relationship, a cookie cutter one, or you don't. And everyone that has a successful one, even if you hear them talk sensibly about what they do and how they conduct themselves, to you, it's like, yeah, well, luck. You dismiss it because your church of science will not be even a little bit flexible in a conversation with philosophy, perhaps. Anyway, any last questions, guys? And we'll call it a day. For me, it's about what you've learned. Are you having reflective conversations, or are you repeating the quacks of the manosphere or politics or left and right? Are you having personal conversations? Are you relating personally, or are you relating mechanically through the memes that keep the 5-year-old you safe from being hurt by mummy or chicky poo? Any last questions? Let's call it a day. Happy Easter to most of the people around the world. Karu, how are you? Just a guy, how are you? Martial Arts says, this mic sounds better to me. The other one has too much of an S sound, the S words, and perhaps it's highly pitched. Interesting. This one is the more detailed S sounding one, and I had to subdue it because naturally this one's very, very detailed to the point that you can hear every little spittle in my mouth. So I had to really tone this down. This one's so sensitive that I need to almost hamstring it to sound normal. And so it doesn't fatigue people, their ears over a long stream. So I'm glad you I actually like the tone of this, but it's too detailed. Whereas the other one that I like is kind of comfortable, but I'll try and tone down the S's. I'll have a listen on headphones with that one because I like that one. There's something about the design of this one, the other one that I like a bit more than this, but a bit of variety, switching things up. Also, I have a few microphones and I want to make a use of them rather than, $150 just sitting there in a box, just rotting away. Rayleigh says, women only care about what you can do for them. True, most women do, but there's also a conversation some guys don't talk about where you might be comfortable with, everyone likes to be likes to be shown rather than with words how you love them. So a guy might be fine in saying like, okay, she likes it when I do this for her. And I'm happy to do that for her. But also you should have some needs and communicate that I like it when you do this for me. And she should want to do it because it makes you feel good too. So you should both express love through actions. But the women that don't want to do anything, but they just use the words, yeah, then there's a problem. Then it's just words. You only love a guy. And it will show when you go through hard times. Does she only like you through a stoic, strong fantasy of you? Or if someone passes away or you lose your job, does she leave you? If you show a moment of vulnerability, weakness, or anything, does she get turned off and she doesn't like being with you? She doesn't want to communicate. She's distant from you. You need to pay attention to that because there's got to be give and take. For instance, of course you get turned on when she looks the sexiest. when she looks less so, but then would you leave her? Does she have to maintain a 10 out of 10 sexy look for you to be able to stay there? And that's the reality of some guys are with women where you have to keep pedaling so hard to be the alpha. Otherwise, if you slow down because you just can't keep it up. and it's not you, and then you know that she's going to leave you, and you excuse it as all women being like that. No, your woman's just like the typical women out there. I think most people care about how you show how you love somebody through gestures and actions really is the final proof that it's not just words. So let's not negate as guys as well. I know guys like they want to do everything for their women and it makes them feel good to do things. But don't negate also that we also really appreciate if she makes us a meal or shows us in ways that we communicate. I love it when you do this. I love it when you act this way or say this. This thing I really particularly like. And she does it intentionally because she knows it makes you feel good. So she does something. So it's not just that women like what you can do for them, insist that they do things for you that you like and love too, as proof of love. Women need proof of love. Unfortunately, a lot of men don't require proof and then complain that like she never loved you. Like you have to have some needs as well. The blind spot with a lot of stoic guys is that they feel like to be a really strong man is that they should be so self-sufficient that they should require no proof of love from a woman. And especially if she just continually doesn't do the things you keep telling her you would want her to do, or it's very reasonable for her to do. If she gets annoyed every time you say, like you keep forgetting to do this, or you don't do this, or you keep refusing every time I just ask for this, and you know I really love it or enjoy it, and you won't. Or if you look at it, like all the things that you do for her that she appreciates, loves, and enjoys, right? What does she do for you that you appreciate, love, and enjoy? What does she resist doing for you intentionally? She knows what you love, enjoy, and respect, and she doesn't do it. You have to be honest about that. You can't just have a fantasy of in your head that you just love her and she loves you for what? Magic. It has to be grounded in some sort of practical reality. You should care about what she does for you too. All right, any last questions, guys and girls? Oh, and we'll call it a day. Like, comment, subscribe, do all that fun stuff. Join the channel if you're so inclined. I appreciate it. If you have a microphone you want to discuss with each other, not just type in the comments, jump on my Gilded server, and I'll jump on if I have a chance. Otherwise, if there's no other questions, Big Ol says the question is not whether she has a good relationship with her father, but whether she has the correct relationship with him. Sometimes the correct relationship is no relationship. That is it's a better clarification. Like I said, she could be justified in not wanting to talk with her father. That would be the correct relationship. You're right. Yeah, is it correct? Is it understandable? Whether they don't like people, as I've mentioned, can she articulate why she loves you or why she's angry at you? Can she articulate why she doesn't speak to her sister? Can she articulate why she loves her sister? Can she, like, all of these things, the more we can know and articulate why we respect, love someone or why we don't, clarifies where we stand. It clarifies our boundaries. It clarifies where our yeses and nos are and our confidence in saying those things. And it clarifies to other people where we stand on them. Like, I know what Human's about. I know what he thinks about that because he always stands firmly on that and he tells me. But if it's a question mark of, I don't know, we just had a falling out. Why? We just kind of avoided each other. Now we just don't talk. Is that what it's going to be like with us? You just ghost me and then like you're too embarrassed to talk about it? All right. Any last questions? Let's wrap it up. Any super chats? If anyone wants to super chat me, you've got a minute to do so because I really dislike ending the stream and then someone last minute super chats me with a question. I feel like I took a donation for nothing. But that's a good point. Do they have the correct and reasonable relationship? Ian Miller says, how is the road going? Which road? I have a few roads. I have a couple of shotgun microphones, which I use on camera. I've actually used it once on a stream. I hooked it up. I Frankensteined it to my mixer. Not the best, but it was fun to do. The mics I have that are Rode, I've got the Procaster and I've got the Pod mic that are more sort of for this thing. The Pod mic, I want to use that because I love compact technology. For instance, I love cameras that are big body and small lens, and I love compact microphones rather than kind of long phallic microphones. I don't know what that says about me. So for instance, this is like look at this beautiful thing. It's like a little chunky little microphone. It's kind of odd, but it's very compact and small. And the same with this one. But the Rhodes, they're nice, but it's got to match your voice. I think they're okay with my voice because they're very sharp and clear, and I've got a lot of low register with my voice, but I do have sharp S's and sibilants. Like I have little piercing a part to my voice on certain letters and words. So, but they're good. Whereas microphones like Shure SM7B, I don't think it would be great for my voice. It would be smooth, but I've already got kind of a smoother low end voice. So I still think I think this microphone, the Samson Q9U, is the nicest to my voice, but this one is good too. This one's actually, I would actually recommend this this one's really good for a whole range of voices. Unless you're in the extremes, I think the Neat Worker Bee, this microphone, unless you really don't like the look, the look is very confronting, but it's a really, really nice quality microphone. The Neat King Bee, the new version that came out, it's bigger, but it's all black. That one's even better than this, but I'm not going to buy it because it's not a big deviation from this. But if I were to get another one, if I didn't have this, I would highly recommend the Neat Worker Bee. That's probably the best value condenser broadcast microphone in this price range I think you can get. It punches above its weight. But Rode is nice. Rode's a really good Australian microphone company. It's world leading and it does a lot of really good quality microphones. Why do you have one, Ian? Realistic Delinquent says, how have you changed for a woman? Did you prefer it in retrospect? I've probably changed. A lot of guys will probably say I've changed a lot in my content because I'm reflecting on my life now with somebody. But I for sure have, because I'm not just theorizing. Like, I don't think I've backed down and flipped on my opinion, but I've had to practice a lot of what I thought was true in a vacuum and see if it actually works in real life. You know, can I still be myself to the extent that I thought I could? And I think I still can. I'm pretty sure. And there was always a suspicion with me that a lot of this stuff that seems like it's completely true, unless I can, the final stage of testing it in real life, unless I can, and it does work there, and I can be that guy there, then I feel like a bit of a fraud. That final step is completing the loop. Otherwise, it's all kind of convenient theory. It's all university until you get out into the workforce. That's kind of like it feels to me. There's a lot of preparation, which, you know, I think is really great. There's a lot of preparation and information in the manosphere, a lot of rational discussion, but just a lot of resistance of, if you're still open to having relationships, if you're still going to go out there into the world and have these conversations and judge the nature of women, even if it's just at the supermarket in male, female nature, do you do enough of it to kind of come back with closing the loop of that? So I think I've I think the reality of the conversations I have about men and women and relationships, I think they have become more realistic because I am actually relating with another person and seeing the reality of whether this stuff is more true or if it's just pie in the sky perfection, that it's kind of not realistic in a pedestrian sense. Like, it's very hard to make it happen when it's utopian, when it's the perfect world. Why can't women just be like this? Why can't men just be like this? If the world was just this, if they changed the laws, this would be better, right? I think my relationship with my woman has made my has forced me to turn the dials, and I knew it would, by making the talking points more realistic, because they're between people. You have to see if they're true between people. I can't just say what I want. I have to live it and speak it and see if I can have a relationship. I can't talk about compatibility and then just go out there and just date blindly again. I have to not just be the person in my videos. I have to transpose that and be that person and have those convictions. And when I talk to someone, I have to be the same person. I can't backflip and be a completely different person. Yeah, you have a nuance. You can't be as blunt talking to nobody. And like when I write in my diary, or if I'm doing a video, like, being a diary version here just to you, there's a respect that you have to have in front of another person, but you're still you. So it has I don't think it's adjusted me, but I think it's adjusted me in a more reasonable, realistic way, rather than talking in an echo chamber and talking in a perfect world sense. And a lot of guys, just look at the comment last I posed a comment. Where was it? Yeah, in my comment section. Have a look about the stream, about this video, right? In the comments, I get these a lot, not a lot, but reasonably enough, where he said, a guy says, humans content recently is a really good illustration of what Sandman and others have talked about a lot. The subconscious influence that being in a relationship has on men. I strongly suspect that when human is single again, I'm not going to be single again, but he says he will observe that what I've observed in him over roughly the past year, a general softening and less objective view of the current reality between the genders. I didn't pick another gender. I picked a specific person. We are talking about different things. If you want to have a conversation about general women, biology and stuff, I will nod my head. I'll be on the same page. But I dated personally. And it's this inability to talk on that front. You won't meet me halfway there. I either have to talk completely biologically, or you think I'm a fool. He continues, his constant is still good, but he's on the edge of, I've evolved and become enlightened past that guy I was a minute ago, and so should you. Again, you're doing the Kathy Newman, Jordan Peterson thing. So what Human's saying is like, I never said that. Which, if his ego allows it, he will later acknowledge he was a symptom of being in a less rational psychological place. You psychologically have scaffolding when you should have rational psychological scaffolding when you deal with strangers, especially, right? But once, as I said, you meet Jenny, she becomes less every woman, and you have to, the degree to which you insist that she reveals Jenny, you also have to insist and be yourself and reveal Billy Joe Bob, right? So you're not every man. You are you. You want her to understand all of you, take you or leave you, and you want to reveal all of Jenny sitting across the table. You are very binary in your thinking. You are trying to solve a very subjective personal problem where you are trying to find a compatible partner, right? Of course, there could be things that happen in the past. I could get hit by a bus tomorrow. The relationship's over. There's a lot of, but in terms of realistic things where you can keep your hands on the steering wheel and intentionally date and relate to a person through conversation, make sure you're on the same page rather than letting the starting point of a relationship drift away where you don't communicate and then it ends because it just naturally drifted away and you never communicated. This insistence that my relationship will end because you just know, right? I am in this. I spend all of my time in it, talking about it, communicating, maintaining it, keeping it healthy, enjoying it, making sure it's good. I'm in it all the time, but someone does a drive-by comment and I don't know, you're God. You're looking at everything and you can tell the future because of all women. So you know me, like no matter how personally and reflectively and philosophically and introspectively, I try and talk about the personal. I talk about the personal in all my videos. It's all very much me developing a moral philosophy by which to deal with the people you're dealing with. I'm all about relating to the person you're choosing or not choosing to deal with. Me making the decision. Me not spending any more time with someone who's not compatible with me than I have to. But you're talking scientifically. Do you really think happiness lies in being a robot man dealing with robot women because apparently all women are the same and you just date hot women you bang, and why doesn't it last? Because they're utilities. You're a utility, she's a utility. Utilities get used and chucked away. If you're dating as a human being in a different way, then your blueprint, I don't really like the likelihood of what you think's going to happen to me. I hope it makes you happy that you think one day you're gonna get vindicated. What are you gonna win anyway? I told you so. Anyway, these kind of comments, like I really don't know why. The majority of my channel don't think like this, but these are interesting. Like these are the kind of comments I can't have a discussion. Like you write well, Chris, but like you're so in your church of no matter how reasonable I try and be, even if I meet you halfway and say, well, look, all right, there's a chance of this not working or that. There's a chance of an argument. There's a chance, like it's not going to be sunshine and rainbows every day. I'll extend you the olive branch and tell you that life isn't perfect. Every day in my relationship won't be perfect, right? But you won't meet me halfway either. Like yours is just like the perfect world of men against women, 1 + 1 = 2, black and white, binary. There's no other conversation to be had. There's no middle of the bell curve. There's no gray area of the pedestrian life where everyone lives. So I don't know what to say. Believe what you want to believe. I hope you trusting in my misery in the future helps you sleep at night. And I don't know what to tell you. Like, I don't know. Maybe look for someone else who's conducting themselves differently that will give you the outcome you want to feel, like the told you so. Maybe that'll actually make you feel better because it'll probably happen rather than my situation. I'm not sure. Anyway. Anyway, guys, any last questions or super chats, and let's wrap it up. Kind of a downer of a note, I say. Let's what'd be an upper? Happy Easter. How about that? Anyway. See you in the next video, next stream. Like, comment, subscribe, join, all the good stuff. And I will join you in the next video or stream, maybe with another microphone. Who knows? All right. Catch you later. Bye.